Hey guys, it's Leslie from Leslie Writes It All today with a metallic pen review for you. I'll be going over some of the pens that I have in my stash that are metallic. As always, you can find more information in the description below, or you can click the link to the blog to get more detailed information. The Crayola metallic markers have a felt tip, which makes brush calligraphy a little bit more difficult, but not impossible to do. The felt tip is a little flexible, but it is not considered a brush tip pen, so traditional brush calligraphy is not going to really work for this pen, but it does have really great color to it, which is why I wanted to show it off. The pink bling is probably my favorite color in the set, but the other colors show up really nicely as well. The purple one is just a close second. I really like that one as well. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, this cobalt blue also shows up really nicely. So it's really hard to pick the best color out of this set. I think all of them show up really well, so that's why I really like this set still, even though it's not a brush pen set. They're also not that expensive. Crayola makes really affordable pens, which are fun to use, so that's another perk for this pen. And just because these pens don't have a brush tip doesn't mean that they're not great for other things. They work really well for monoline drawing, or also some monoline lettering. That works really well with this pen, and that's really easy to do. You don't really have to change how you're holding the pen or how you're writing with it in terms of changing pressure. So if you just want a regular monoline pen, this pen is really great for that. And then these colors obviously are showing up really well on the blacks. As I mentioned earlier, it is a medium bullet tip felt tip pen. So it's going to be hard to get thin and thick lines, but it's not impossible. You just have to really be careful about your pressure. So because it's so stiff, you can actually push down on it with considerable pressure, and it's not going to really damage the pen too much. So if you are holding the pen really lightly and just barely touching the tip to the paper, then that's where you're going to get the really thin lines. The thick lines come from pushing it really hard down onto that paper, and that's when the pen makes more contact with the paper. So it's not impossible, it's just more difficult to do. You can also angle the pen so that it slants and more of the side of the pen touches the paper, whereas the thin lines the pen is pretty much perpendicular to the paper. But it does take you writing very slowly to achieve this effect, because it's not naturally brush tips. So just modifying the angle and the pressure will help you get some of the variations in the thin and thick lines. So unless you're naturally gifted, which I am not, using this type of pen for brush calligraphy will require a ton of practice. So don't get frustrated, just be patient. You will see yourself improving. It just takes a little bit of muscle memory for your hand to be able to adjust pressure and adjust angles for when you want thick lines and when you want thin lines. And moving on, this one is probably my favorite of the sets I'm reviewing. It's the Kuretake Fude metallic pen. So these are a traditional brush tip pen, so they are really easy to use for that brush calligraphy effect, and they come in some really pretty colors as well. But if you compare the tips, you can't really see, but the other Crayola tip is definitely more rigid and it comes to a hard bullet. This one is going to be just really soft, flexible brush tip for you to write in that calligraphy style. So you still will have to change up the pressure and the angle for writing with this pen, but it's a lot easier and you're going to get a bigger difference. So if you notice, the downstrokes for this pen are much thicker than the upstrokes, which are so thin, compared to the Crayola ones, where the upstrokes and the downstrokes, even though they had a different thickness, the difference between them wasn't that much. Even though you could tell that a thicker line was made, it's not considerably thicker. But this pen does create that really thick line, so you can see a big difference in the upstrokes and downstrokes. But because these pens are made in Japan, I really don't know what the actual colors for them are, so I'm kind of guessing. And there's 6 pens that come in this set that I just bought online. The prettiest one is probably the silver, actually. It shows up really nicely. You can also get a really neat ombre effect if you notice the pink, purple, and blue. When you push down on this pen, you're going to get more ink released, and that creates a deeper, darker color. And then as you release it, less ink comes out, so it's going to be lighter. So it creates a really pretty gradient. You're going to see that it goes from darker on the top and then lighter on the bottom. Definitely the upstrokes and downstrokes are much more noticeably different with this pen, like I mentioned earlier, and it's much easier to control than something that is a bullet tip. Because of the tapered edge and because it's a fude or brush tip, that's what fude means in Japanese, brush, then it is so much easier to control if you're using it specifically for brush calligraphy. Like I said, it does create that really pretty ombre effect. If you notice, the bottoms look a little more silver and the top looks a little bit more purple, so that's a really cool effect that comes with this pen as well. The last set that I brought is the Art Brush Tower metallic pens. I found these on Amazon and they were for a really great price. For some reason, I've seen other people use them and they look fantastic. For me, they dried out a little bit, but the colors still show up okay. It's just not as dark and opaque as maybe the first time that I had them. So unfortunately, maybe I got a bad set, but they were really fun to play with when I first got them. Like here, the white is not showing up as dark as it originally did, but some of the other colors, like this one here, the silver, still shows up really well. This tip pen is much thinner than the fude, which makes it a little bit more difficult to control. So it's not really as easy to use for beginners, but it's still a fun pen to use, and it does have a really great price point. So because the tip is so flexible, even I'm having a little bit of a hard time writing with it. It creates kind of this unevenness if you change pressure really quickly. So you notice the G in gunmetal kind of looks weird because I changed pressure too quickly. So anything that has a really flexible tip is not going to be really recommended for beginners who are starting out, because you need something that's going to be a little bit more sturdy. The thinness of these tips though do let you create a much thinner hairline than the Furutake fude brush pens from earlier. So this one will allow you to create a little more delicate look to your lettering. And unfortunately, I think these colors don't show up as vibrantly as the other pen sets that I demonstrated. It could be that I got a bad batch and these dried out a little bit faster than normal. They did come in a really cool range of colors, like this green and light green combo, but unfortunately I think I might have gotten a bad set, but it's kind of hard to see some of these colors show up. And these are by no means all the metallic pens that exist out there. These are just a couple that I have in my stash that I wanted to show you guys. So if you guys have other pens that you love and would love me to get my hands on and try, or you've heard about something and you want to see it being used, then please leave me a comment and I will see what I can do to get my hands on them. Of course, you know I'm a hoarder, so I will be happy to collect more pens.
And if you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to see more videos just like this. This is Leslie from Leslie Writes It All. Thanks for tuning in.